Gulliver. I am Mass DOT's Highway Director for District 3, which manages highway assets within central Massachusetts. My office is charged with delivering this project, and I'm here today to introduce our various speakers on the MC in this event. Before we get going, I just want to acknowledge a few people that have arrived here, and I apologize. It's a big crowd, and I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody. First off,
please. We cannot hear.
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah.
Yay. I'm just going to acknowledge a few people that have arrived. And I apologize in advance. It's a big crowd, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a few people. But Office of Jennifer Benson, State Representative Jim Cerro, State Representative Christopher Walsh, Jane Adams, the District Director from Congresswoman Nikki Songas, Acting Town Manager Steve Ledoux. And with that, let me get into the project itself. I think everybody knows why we're here today. This is the 5-mile phase of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Project, Phase 2A. It will pass through Westford, Carlisle, and Acton, ending at a junction just north of Route 2. The $10 million project was recently awarded to SPS New England, who has a fairly sizable project management team here as well. We have partnered with SPS on a number of projects. Many of you have recently driven the Route 2 corridor, driven through one of the more notable ones recently. And this project is scheduled to start within the next couple of months, and it is scheduled to be complete sometime in late 2017. This is one of these projects that Mass DOT really likes doing. It's an incredible example of how public and private advocacy groups work together to really come together with a shared goal to make great things happen. Mass DOT is really happy to be a part of this kind of a partnership. So our first speaker today is Secretary Stephanie Pollack. Secretary Pollack has worked on transportation policy, finance, and equity as an Associate Director for Research at the Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Policy at Northeastern University since 2005, where she also served as an adjunct professor. The Secretary has provided over a decade of strategic consulting on transportation issues to the public and private sectors, following a distinguished career at the Conservation Law Foundation in Boston. She has been very active in public policy issues affecting transportation development and sustainability nationally and locally, serving on numerous boards and advisory bodies. Despite these many accomplishments, I think the Secretary can't be introduced without noting that she also took the helm of the Mass DOT at a really difficult time when we got hit by some of the worst weather in history of Massachusetts. And she stepped right in and did a great job. So with that, Secretary Pollack.
Here in Acton with all of you on this glorious day, which can almost make us forget about the 110 inches of snow that we had last winter. Although I will tell you that while we are here, in a few hours we will actually close the orange line and start doing winter resiliency work, which we began this week. So I can assure you that at DOT and at the META, we're both moving ahead with projects like this, but we're not forgetting about the day-to-day work of running a system that's reliable and sustainable. When I was getting caught up with staff about this just amazing project that is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, one of the things I was told is that the very first meeting, which was attended at that time by Bruce Freeman, who's state rep, to sort of kick this entire lengthy process off, took place in June of 1985, which means that it has been a full 30 years that folks have been working on this project, and it is my hope that it will be far less than another 30 years before the entire length of the trail. And I also think that during that 30 years, one of the biggest changes that we have seen in the transportation business is that people have gone from seeing something like an active transportation facility for walking and biking like the rail trail as being kind of like a side note or an interesting, detour for the real work of transportation, to being central to how we think about our transportation system. And I think that the rail trail, the Freeman Rail Trail, and the other, between Mass DOT and the MBTA, actually, those two agencies own or are partners in the operation of many miles of rail trails, former railway rights of way, and other rights of way that have been turned into trails. the reason that I say that a rail trail is now so central and so much part is, first of all, I can tell you that when I go talk to Jonathan and the folks in District 3, folks from the outside, folks who maybe haven't spent a lot of time with highway or bridge engineers recently, might assume that transportation professionals who are really focused on roads and bridges see, again, the accommodation of active transportation, of walking and biking as a thing that we do grudgingly because our real job is roads. That's really not how the folks at MassDOT see it. It's not how Jonathan sees it. It's not how folks at District 3 and all the other districts see it. The fact that our Assistant Chief Highway Engineer, who is responsible for working with all of our highway districts to make sure that we meet the requirements of state law to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians in every project we do on our highway system, does such a great job of getting those accommodations done and holding down the number of sort of exceptions we grant. That he was recently awarded a Golden Shoe Award by Walk Boston, tells you that inside the agencies we understand that walking and biking are real forms of transportation, not just recreational opportunities. And we need to give people more safe facilities in which to engage in walking and biking, like the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. The other reason that I would say that the rail trail is central is the fact that it connects communities to each other. And one of the ideas that I worked on when I was at the Dukakis Center, and that has really moved to the forefront in national thinking about how transportation interacts with quality of life and with the prosperity of our cities and towns and with the environment and with people's health, is an idea called connected communities. I actually had the pleasure of giving a talk on connected communities down at the Department of Housing and Urban Development just at the tail end of my time in academia. And the idea of connected communities is they're like Acton, they're like Westford, they're the kinds of places we all want to live in. In a connected community, within the community, folks have the ability to get what they need on a daily basis. If they don't want to drive, they can walk places, they can bike places, they can use transit to get places. And then that community, with its central core of places where you can meet your daily needs, is in turn connected by roads, yes, but also by trails and also by transit to neighboring communities, so that if your job or the school you're going to or the place you would like to visit isn't in your own community, you have more than one way of getting there. And so rail trails and the Bruce Freeman Trail is not only important because it promotes active transportation like walking and biking, it's important because it represents a collective effort literally over a period of decades in which a group of communities have said, we want to work with each other as well as with our citizens, as well as with our state transportation agencies. And that kind of partnership is really a model for how we should be making all our communities better connected to each other. So I want to thank everyone who has been part of that effort for all these years, not only for the accomplishment that is this phase of the rail trail, not only for the work that's being done to design and get things moving on the next phases, but for setting an example and showing us a model of ways in which MassDOT, cities and towns, and citizens and nonprofit groups can really work in partnership to connect our communities in ways that none of us could ever do working on our own. So thank you very much, and I'm delighted to join you today.